I'd like to share a few thoughts around the national shutdown by the economic freedom fighters. Number one, I won't be joining the march slash protest because personally I don't believe in marching. A lot of people say that apartheid ended because of marching. I do not agree. I believe apartheid ended because of sanctions that were brought about because a lot of people that were fighting for the liberation of black South Africans traveled around the world and actually explained to foreign entities what was happening in South Africa. And because of that, there was pressure from externally, and that was a huge factor. Number two, the ANC decided to set up a military wing called Umkhonto weSizwe. It wasn't the only one. I think Azapo, APLA, APLA, I think is the military wing of the PAC. The PAC also had their own military wing. So I'd like to think the leaders of South Africa realized that, look, these black political leaders are actually looking to get violent. Because you must understand, the apartheid government almost had a monopoly on violence, which is currently what's happening in South Africa today. The ANC-led government controls the army, they control the police. So if ever there is a clash between citizens and government will roll out and enforce the army and the police onto the citizens. So what happened back there is that the citizens decided to create their own armies, which is something that we need to consider as South African citizens. It's one of the reasons why I'm an advocate for gun ownership and telling people, get your own guns, train, learn how to fight so that if a police officer or soldier is coming at you, you have adequate training. You are just as proficient at using a gun as they are. You are just as good and capable at using physical violence, whether it's boxing, kicking, whatever the case may be, and you are aware of the law, which is one of the ways that you protect yourself against a tyrannous, an oppressive government. I don't believe in marching, I do believe in protesting, and there's a difference. To march is to get onto the streets and toi toi. Hey, ta, 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 ta. It's very nice, it's stimulating, it gets you excited. You get on the street, you physically feel like you're doing something. To protest, or rather to march, is just a form of protesting. You can protest in many ways. You can say, look, I'm not going to pay for my electricity until you guys end load shedding. Of course, there will be repercussions, but there could be repercussions with marching anyways. They'll say, well, switch off your power. You're like, if we can gather enough people to not pay their electricity, these people will be forced to take action. I saw a very beautiful story, a tweet yesterday. A lady said that in some village, the taxi industry there, or the taxi association, they decided to increase the prices from the village to town to 20 Rand. The villagers did not march, did not protest, did not fight. They just decided to start walking to town and walking home peacefully and not catching taxis. Within a week, the taxis had lowered the prices again. That's a form of protesting. Staying at home and not going to work so that your employer can feel the heat is a form of protesting. Going through the right channels and signing petitions, demanding that we have early elections so that we can force the ANC out of power is a form of protesting. Forcing the IEC, the Independent Electoral Council, whatever it may be, to actually enact political reform so that we can vote for individuals and not necessarily political parties. To get the IEC to implement that we are tired of political parties forcing a president we don't want. We would like, as the citizens of South Africa, to elect our own president. Why can we not get a ballot where we get to choose which leader? It doesn't matter which political party they belong to, and especially if they don't belong to a political party. We want to choose the person we want to vote for. When I look at the masses of South Africans, I can only imagine that if they had to vote for a political leader currently, maybe not so much currently, but a year or two ago, it would have been between Jacob Zuma and Julius Malema, because they were the two most popular politicians in the country. Currently now, it would probably be Julius Malema, it could be Herman Mashaba, it could be Gayton McKenzie, it could be Vuyo Zungula, it could even be John Steenhuisen. I don't think the masses of South Africans would vote for Cyril Ramaphosa, to be fully honest. But we don't get to choose our president. And why is that not so if we claim that we are a democratic country? So there are various ways of protesting. I do not think that marching is one of them. The two that are my favorite are voting with your rand, which means you protest with your rand. That means you get to choose who to buy from and who not to buy from. And one of the most frustrating things for me is, to this day, we are not told who funded Cyril Ramaphosa, so that we can directly know these are the people who run these companies who are responsible for giving us this man who we believe is a bad president. We want to see Bidvest, Aspen, Glencore. We want to see the people that funded Cyril. We want to see maybe Adrian Gore at Discovery and say, oh, so you guys are the ones funding the ANC and Cyril. You guys are responsible. Maybe we shouldn't support your businesses, or maybe we should point our fingers at you and ask you, why do you keep supporting such? Of course, we see the ANC voters, and the ANC voters, most of them are generally voting for social welfare. The ANC voter generally does not care about politics. They do not care what's happening at Phala and all those things. What they care about is, will I get my grant? Will I get my RDP? Will my child get to study for free? Will my child get fed at school? Will my child get NSFAS? Will I get a 350 rand because I'm unemployed? That's what they care about. And if you can promise them that, they will vote for you. They don't care about our foreign policies, and arguably they don't care about the borders. Yes, they're frustrated by the borders because they now have to share space with illegal foreigners. But outside of that frustration, they will still go and vote for the ANC. I've liked Julius Malema during his ANC Youth League days. He's a necessary voice. The EFF is a necessary party. I voted for them at the last national elections because I wanted young people in parliament, because they stirred up parliament and so many people became conscientized around the processes of parliament. But I think they flip-flop too much, and I think they are no different to the ANC. And I think, given power, Julius Malema, Floyd Shibambu, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, and all the other leaders of the EFF will be no different to the ANC. They will park the land issue. They will park the nationalization of mines. They will work with the incumbent wealthy to make sure that things don't change. Because they generally live in the suburbs. They earn well. They live quality lives. Their children go to top schools, most of them private schools. So they are already living like ANC politicians. They just talk differently. And their actions are largely the same. I mean, the ANC used to protest back in the day. They used to march back in the day. The EFF is just copying what their parents used to do. But what happens when you give them power? Are they fundamentally changing the townships in where they have mass support? Have we seen those townships build better homes, have better streets, have no potholes? Are the schools in the townships where the EFF has a stronghold, are the schools better? Are the people there planting trees and vegetable gardens? Are the black businesses in those areas thriving? Is the EFF actively saying, support black-owned spaza shops? Does the EFF wear clothing when they go to parliament that is manufactured by black suppliers? And the short answer is no, they're not. So for me, I realized, look, there's a lot of hypocrisy. And look, politicians in their general are liars. All they want to do is maximize votes. So they will clown around and dance and sing and say whatever you want to hear to that effect. We've seen load shedding being sort of suspended. We've gone down to stage 1 as well. And it could be because of the pressure of the EFF and the shutdown. It could be a psychological trick to diffuse the situation and get people to calm down, be like, well, I'm not as angry anymore because I've got electricity. And come next week, we're back to stage 4, 5, 6. Is this going to be sustainable? Will the EFF need to shut down the country every week for us to have our load shedding lowered? Is it a coincidence? Is it just a coincidence that, look, actually, our power stations are fine? Could it be that the cartels and the mafia in Mpumalanga are saying, well, Andre, the rate is gone, so now we can actually go back to business as usual? Gwede Mantashe is going to make sure that we keep supplying coal. We're going to keep getting the tenders we were getting at Eskom. Andre de Ruyter and his band of merry men, or maybe some of his white Afrikaners that he was maybe trying to get in there, are not going to get in. Or Titi Mabuza left the ANC, left as deputy president. They left the cabinet and they're like, let me go back to Mpumalanga where I have supreme power and tell my guys, gents, calm down. It's chilled. We can carry on eating. No one is going to disturb us. I've made sure of it. Is that what's happening? Or are we being distracted from something? Sometimes when there's a lot of stuff happening and we're all focused on this one issue, there's something else happening somewhere else. Are there policies that we're going to find out later on in the week or the month that Cyril Ramaphosa has enacted that we weren't aware of because we were too focused on the national shutdown? Is there something happening internationally that we are being shielded from? Focus on the EFF, focus on the national shutdown, and we'll carry on doing this. Why did the EFF wait so long and give the ANC such a long time to prepare? Could it be that the soldiers and the police are being given a license to go into spaces they otherwise wouldn't be able to get into on a normal day. To be like, guys, we will do the shutdown and make a noise, and then you guys can get into these spaces because you'll now be allowed. We'll say, hey, what are you guys doing? But now it gives us an opportunity to raid certain spaces that we wouldn't have raided before, to maybe harass citizens in ways we wouldn't have been able to do before. From Friday, the protests have started in places like Midrand, where some of the people have blockaded some of the streets, tires are being burnt, etc. White people, sadly, on social media are being hypocrites. When they were marching for Jacob Zuma, there were no issues. A lot of them who own businesses gave their people the chance to go march. Please go march and get rid of this butternut head-shaped guy. A lot of the farmers went and barricaded roads, I think in Vereniging, fighting against farm murders. When it suits certain white people, suits their agendas, they're happy to march in the streets and to shut things down. But when it's an agenda that doesn't suit them or it's led by politicians they don't like a Julius, all of a sudden it's chaos and mayhem. Look at what happened with the looting and the riots. Look at what happened with the looting during British colonization, during the apartheid era. And to this day, the ANC government has not fixed that. So be careful of the hypocrisy. You guys are frustrating us. We're all trying to work together and build a better nation. Those are some of my thoughts around the shutdown. I won't be there. I support protesting. I support that the EFF is doing something. I don't think this is the smartest way to go about it in 2023. But let's see what comes of it. I hope no one will be hurt. I hope there won't be clashes. And I hope the criminal elements won't show their face as they normally do and go and hurt people and loot and do those kind of things. Anyways, it's a Sunday. I hope you'll enjoy a very peaceful Sunday. I hope you're enjoying having electricity for a change. Some people might say it's thanks to Minister Sputla, Josienzo, Ramokgopa, but we don't know. Time will tell. The political games continue. Pay you all the black pen.